Hi, hello, good evening, everybody, to Wednesday evening. I hope you're having a fantastic time. Happy fireworks, if fireworks happening around by you. This evening's webinar is all about broadcast and media systems engineering and the wonderful apprenticeship that it is. I'm going to give some people a minute or so to come into the room, so I'm going to play our apprenticeship video whilst people are joining.
Every year, the BBC offers hundreds of apprenticeship opportunities.
From the production teams that bring creative ideas to life,
to the tech teams who code BBC iPlayer and BBC Sounds,
and engineers that keep our broadcasts on air.
From the journalists getting to the heart of the stories that matter the most,
to the operations team that make the business of the BBC function and continue to thrive.
And no, this isn't an unpaid internship situation. You actually get a really competitive salary.
did we say that you can get an accredited qualification from the UK's top learning providers?
And you don't have to pay for it, but you do have to study, like actually study.
This isn't just a London thing either. We're in Cardiff,
Glasgow,
Blackburn,
Newcastle,
Bristol, Tees,
Leeds,
Birmingham, Salford,
Tunbridge Wells,
Belfast.
and that's not even all of our locations.
And it's not just about the work. Our staff networks and apprentice communities are always growing to make you feel like you can bring your authentic self to the BBC.
This really is just the beginning.
Sound good? Find out more here.
And you will get to find out more here with an amazing panel that I have. For those of you who just entered whilst that video was playing, welcome to our webinar this evening, looking at the Broadcast and Media Systems Engineer Degree Apprenticeship. You're here is on a webinar, so what I will say is a couple of people have put their hands up, but we can't take you off camera and mic. So if you have any questions, which we will take some later on in the this evening, so sorry. If you have any questions, please do write them into the Q&A box, and we will take some time out towards the end to answer your questions. But also, we've got a presentation that is jam-packed full of information for you to help you make that decision as to whether this is the scheme for you. Thankfully, I'm not alone. I have a fantastic panel with me, and these guys really are the experts. I should start by introducing myself. I'm Alison. I'm the Early Careers Outreach Specialist. But on the line, I have Jane, who is the scheme specialist for this apprenticeship. Hello, Jane. So we're giving a wave there. And then I also have Rory, who for some reason is an international man of mystery today. His tile is just coming up as a black square. But Rory is from the talent acquisition team, who looks at all the different application forms that you put in. Hello, Rory. How are you? You can't wave. You have to talk.
I am waving, even though you can't see it. But good evening.
Cool, excellent. And then we have some apprentices who are the ones who are literally living the dream and doing the work at the moment. So we've got Aidan on the line, who started in 2023. Hi, Aidan, how are you?
Hi, yeah, good, thanks.
Cool. And then we have Benedict and Nadine, who started last year with the class of 2024. Hello, Benedict. Hello, Nadine. How are you both doing?
Hi, good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm also good.
Excellent, glad to hear. And so before we get into everything about the apprenticeship, what I want to do is just give you a little bit of information with regards to the output or the content that the BBC puts out. And I'm doing this, just so you have some facts about the BBC and what we do, but also it will give a bit of wider context to the type of apprenticeships we put out, and also how vitally important broadcast and media systems engineers are to the BBC as an organization. So in terms of the services that we put out, I am talking about things that we do across television, across radio, and across our digital platforms. So starting off with television across the UK. We have 8 UK-wide television services or channels if you're old-fashioned like me. So think of things like your BBC One, your BBC Two, the news channel, CBBCs, that kind of thing. We have 8 of those. Then following on from that, we have nations and regional TV services, and they are what accompanies the main news bulletins. So the main news bulletins we have are the main breakfast bulletins, and then we have news at 1, at 6 and 10. And then after that, you have something that is local to your area. So if you're in the nations, you'll have BBC Scotland, BBC Wales, or BBC Northern Ireland. And if you're in England, you'll have something regional to you. So I am based in the West Midlands, so I get a BBC Midlands today. Oh, brain just died. Moving on to radio, we have 10 national radio services. So think of your Radio 1s, your 1 Extras, your Asian Network, your 5 Live, your Radio Force. And then over in the nations, we have 7 services specific to them. So in Scotland, we have Radio Scotland and Radio Nangale. In Wales, we have Radio Wales, Radio Cymru and Radio Cymru 2. And in Northern Ireland, we have a Radio Ulster and a Radio Foyle. Coming back over to England, Jersey and Guernsey, we too have local radio services. Again, for me, in the West Midlands, I have Radio WM, but wherever you are, there will be something local to you. And all these services across radio and television and our digital services, they all have their own unique style. The output that they put out is for specific audiences, and they have their own unique following. Finally, on the digital front, we have 10 digital UK services. So think of the main BBC platform, something like iPlayer, BBC Sounds, the weather platform, CBBC's online, all of those are our digital services. So this is the content that you, I, all of us can engage with as audience members. But it doesn't actually show the breadth of the workforce at the BBC or the different career opportunities at the BBC. This is kind of like, I always think of it as an iceberg, and this is the tip of the iceberg that you see above the water. You don't see what's going on underneath. And what's going underneath is all of the producers that are going towards making content, the journalists that are going towards making news, the people who work in the different areas of the business, keeping the BBC as a business going, and then our technical operators and our engineers who are keeping us on air. And so when we're looking at the BBC's apprenticeship offering and the apprenticeship program, we try to offer something that reflects more of the BBC as a whole, both the top and the bottom of that iceberg. So yes, we have schemes in journalism and we have schemes in production, which everyone would expect. But we also have a suite of business schemes, we have a suite of digital technology and data schemes, and we have our engineering and operations schemes, which is what we're here to talk about today. So as well as all the different areas and the different schemes we also have schemes at different levels so that people in different parts of their learning journey can do an apprenticeship at the BBC as well. So our level 3 and level 4 schemes are the equivalent of A-levels and or BTECs. They come under our advanced and higher apprenticeship. And then we have some level 5 schemes, which are the equivalent of a foundation degree and also sit under the advanced and higher apprenticeship banner. We then have schemes that are level 6. Some of them are an actual degree and you get a degree at the end of it. And some of them are degree level equivalent, so learning at degree level. And then finally, we have our postgraduate levels. So that's level 7s and some postgraduate schemes, which will sit under the postgraduate banner. So today, as I've said, we're here to talk about broadcast and media systems degree engineering. And so I'm going to hand over to Jane, who is a scheme specialist and has all the information about it. Jane, over to you.
Thanks, Alison. Hello. Yeah, so I'm Jane. I'm a scheme specialist. So I look after this scheme and a few others. My background is in operations and a bit of engineering as well. So if you've got questions around any of that, please do put them in the Q&A. Happy to answer them. But this particular scheme then, this is the broadcast and media systems engineering scheme. It's level 6 and it's an integrated degree. So that means that you'll get your full degree. You'll also get your apprenticeship alongside it, but they are integrated, so you can't pass one without passing the other, and so on. So engineering at the BBC, it covers a whole range of things. There are so many different departments and different types, but at the BBC, it's those teams who develop, support, and maintain the systems and the infrastructure that keeps all of those services that Alison's just mentioned on air. So it is very much about keeping the BBC on air. This scheme's a really good opportunity to be part of that next generation of engineers that are coming up through the BBC that are helping to deliver that content to TV, radio, online, and all the digital services that we've got as well. Lots and lots of unique challenges that you'll get the opportunity to work on potentially, depending on what's happening at any given time and depending on what location you've applied for. As part of the scheme, you'll have the chance to learn about sort of technologies and systems for TV, for radio and digital, and how they sort of work and how they produce that content that is distributed not just in the UK, but all around the world. You'll also learn about industry standards and the setup of broadcast systems and communications, media content systems and IP networks as well. So lots and lots of different things across engineering. And the idea is that you'll develop sort of those specialised skills that will help you sort of to design and build and maintain media production systems and broadcasting technologies that at the BBC, but also across the industry really, which would help you then develop your career in broadcast engineering into the future. So this scheme in particular then is aimed at those people who have got that real passion for technology, for engineering, for broadcasting, all of those things. As part of the scheme, you'll sort of undertake work placements in different BBC engineering teams to gain an understanding of all those systems and things needed to become a sort of a broadcast engineer. And those placements, they'll vary, but they'll vary depending on where you've applied for. Different areas and different locations across the UK will have different opportunities at any one time. But the idea is that we'll try and rotate you around some different teams or some different departments in engineering, so you get sort of a good variety of knowledge and a good breadth of experience to make you sort of a good, solid engineer. You also get the opportunity to learn at the university. So Birmingham City University is our learning provider, and they will also deliver a whole range of sort of online and face-to-face teaching blocks, some of them on campus and some of them online, around those things that are listed there. So a bit of audio and vision engineering, electrical and electronic engineering, IP networks, a bit of computer science, lots of broadcast technology and database technology, and also engineering mathematics. So a whole range of different things that will help you learn and understand what being a broadcast engineer is really about. So what can you expect, I guess, is the key question. So it is a 3-year degree apprenticeship, so the full 3 years, 36 months, which is dedicated to achieving that degree and also that level 6 apprenticeship. So if you're successful and you complete it, you'll get a BEng with honours if you can achieve that in broadcast and communications engineering, which is awarded by Birmingham City Uni. But you'll also get that level 6 apprenticeship in broadcast and media systems engineering. So they go hand in hand, they are integrated. You'll get a combination of workplace learning and blocks of study. So as I mentioned, online or at the BCU campus in the centre of Birmingham. So some of the blocks are sort of structured so that it's sort of 1 week in Birmingham on campus and then 1 week at study online or from home and then back in campus. And they're in blocks of around 3 months at a time and then 3 months at the BBC working as well. So you'll get that variety of work placements across different engineering teams at the BBC. And you'll get that apprenticeship salary that goes alongside that as well, which this year is 22,950 for a year. And if you've based in London or you've applied for a role in London, you'll also get the London living allowance on top of that. So where are we doing it this year? Every year is a little bit different depending on the needs of the business and the teams that are able to take apprentices. This year we've got a whole variety of locations right across the UK. We're looking for engineers in Belfast, Cardiff and Glasgow, and then London, Salford, Southampton, Tunbridge Wells, and in Worcester as well, which is the BBC's site at BBC Wood Norton. So a whole range of different locations, and each and every location's got different teams and different opportunities. So what are we looking for? So I guess what makes a good broadcast engineering apprentice? Lots of things really, but it's really key that you have that ability to sort of work calmly and under pressure. it's live engineering, you know, it's live broadcasting, and sometimes it will be pressured. So if you've got that ability to work calmly under pressure, that's great. It'll take you a long way. We love people that are good at problem solving or a bit curious, you know, how do things work, that kind of thing. You know, are you interested in taking something apart and putting it back together? Those kinds of things, really, really key. You need to be organised, because at the end of the day, you're going to be doing an apprenticeship alongside a full-time job. So you need that key organisation so that you can manage both. And we want you to be passionate. We want you to be passionate about the media content that we're making at the BBC and how it reaches the audience, and passionate about wanting to be part of delivering that and keeping the BBC on air. I'd love you to be enthusiastic, a real self-starter, and also just being a bit flexible or adaptable to sort of out of hours working as well. The BBC is a 24-hour operation. As an apprentice, you won't necessarily be asked to work night shifts, but it may be that you're not working 9 to 5. We may need you to start a little bit earlier or a little bit later in the day. So just that awareness of sometimes there might be a little bit of out of hours working, as in outside of the 9 to 5 day. So what do we need from you? So you need to be over 18 at the time of starting the apprenticeship. This apprenticeship starts on the 8th of September next year, so you need to be 18 before or on the 8th of September 2026. You need to have the right to work in the UK, and we are looking for you to have GCSEs in English and Maths at grade 4 or grade C or above, and that is part of the entry requirements for the learning provider. They require you to have that. You also need to have an A-level in Maths or an extended BTEC in engineering with engineering mathematics, something along those lines, or something equivalent, but they really are key. They are looking for A-level Maths or something equivalent. And a minimum of 112 UCAS points as well. So, or to be predicted to achieve those before the start date. So you might be doing your A-levels now, and that's absolutely fine. So you haven't got those UCAS points yet, but you'll have an idea of your predicted grade. You'll have an idea if you're going to reach that threshold. But like any other university degree, there is a minimum level of UCAS points that the university are looking for.
Oh, thank you so very much for that, Jane. And like I said, Jane is going to be on the call for the whole hour, so she can answer any questions that you want to submit a little bit later. But I always think it's best to hear from apprentices who are doing the schemes, living the life. So I'll call back to Aidan, Benedict and Nadine. Hello, and thank you very much for taking time out this evening to join us. How are you all? No one wants to talk first.
I'm good.
Excellent, cool. So Nadine, well, seeing as how you answered first, can you tell us what department you work in and a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like?
So I guess the day-to-day really depends whether you're in like a placement block or a uni block. My home team is technology operations. So I did my first placement with them, and we would kind of go around the different studios in Broadcasting House and look at issues that have been reported and try and figure out how to fix them and fix them. It was really interesting. I got to see a lot of different stuff.
Oh, fair dues. And so at this moment in time, you're in your study block, are you?
Yes.
Okay, and how long is that going to take?
I think this study block finishes at the end of November.
Okay, cool. So you got a few weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Aidan, what about yourself? What department are you in, and what does your day-to-day look like?
My home team, like the Dean, is Tech Ops, although I'm based in Salford. But to give you a different perspective, I've done quite a few placements. One of my favourite placements with sport. So one of the things that we do is we go out on location to events like the 100 for the cricket or Wimbledon or the Queen's Tennis Tournament, and kind of plan out how we're going to set up the systems that we need to be able to set up like a studio if we're doing that kind of thing on location, or just the systems that we need to be able to get in all of our like VT, or just like live feeds so that we can then go and broadcast that, and then also being on site to kind of maintain that and make sure it's all working as it goes off. Because with a live event, you never know what could really happen.
Cool. For those who don't know, what's VT?
So any kind of pre-recorded footage. So anything like if we want to like replay a shot from before, say like instant replay, or if we want like a highlights reel, all that's considered videotape, the old school term, but it's what we still use.
Cool, excellent. Thank you very much. And Benedict, what about yourself? What's your department? And I know you're studying as well, but what can your day-to-day look like?
So my home team is projects and we're based in Salford. So depending on what stage you are in the projects process, your day to day will look like going into the office, you probably have a meeting or two, and then it's planning and then actually like doing the project. So you might have documentation to look at and go over, or if it's a bit more of an exciting day, you might have to like actually put equipment in the bays and like actually be doing cable runs and things like that. So it does vary day to day, like going between, the physical installs and putting things in, and then like also getting to do the planning and the costing and diagramming everything else. So it just depends on what sort of project you're working on and also what stage in the project that you're in.
Thank you. And when you say projects, what do you mean? Projects like what?
So my first project, as you can see, I was working on Newsround. So
Mhm.
we moved Newsround from they were working in a rented out space and we were moving them in-house into Key House. So we got to like build the whole studio from bottom up. So that was planning it all out and then getting the equipment and then putting it all in, and then you can see all the lights in the background. So it's kind of projects like that, moving lots of things that are we're spending money renting studios, moving those in-house, building edit suites for editors to use, things like that. So really exciting things that you'll actually get to see the output of.
Okay, so between the three of you, you are literally keeping us on air, building things, fixing things, keeping it all going. And so Benedict, I'm going to stick with you for a second. What made you decide to apply for a broadcast engineering apprenticeship, and why did you apply at the BBC?
I always knew that I wanted to do an apprenticeship over just going to university because of that, like wanting to get to work and getting that experience in the real world. But I think I picked broadcast engineering because I really enjoyed watching TV and watching BBC content. And so getting to actually work on the things that you watched growing up is really exciting, and actually getting to physically see what you've been working on in the real world. It's quite a cool experience.
And did you do any kind of engineering or stuff like that beforehand?
I came from a more computer science background, so when I was like doing things for in the other apprenticeships I was applying for, I was looking towards more like software engineering and things like that. So it was engineering adjacent, but not quite specifically broadcast engineering or like some of the more electronic engineering that you get to do here. But I think it was a good, mix of both, and like my interests definitely aligned both ways.
Thank you. Aidan, what about yourself?
Um, so I was kind of into engineering mainly because I liked solving problems. I always liked kind of breaking down something and then like looking for patterns and kind of analyzing it. Um, and originally I kind of liked like physical things, so I like either building things or like physically working on like electronics was kind of what I tended to go towards. And when I was looking for the apprenticeship, I think you might have seen on one of the slides there, it said includes elements of electrical engineering. And it just happened the keyword lined up what I was searching for. And I was like, that sounds pretty interesting. I get to work on like TV stuff and do the kind of thing I wanted to do before. So I was like, why not? And put a lot of effort in the application. Probably got lucky in a couple of places, and
Cool. I'm sure you did very well. I know you did very well in your application. You are here. And Nadine, what about yourself?
So at the time I applied, I had done a bit of university previously and left because I didn't like the course. And then I was working at an escape room place where I was helping out with like the maintenance and like fixing the puzzles when they would break. And then I was also volunteering at my local community radio station. And then one of my friends sent me the job listing and was like, this would be the perfect thing for you. It combines all your interests. And I applied, and now I'm here.
Oh, excellent. And I like how everyone has given like really cool reasons and examples of how they've got here on this journey so far. But I like how actually it was some of your outside work and volunteering work that you realized kind of like the stars aligned when it came to the scheme, which goes to show that, if anyone's listening and they think, actually, I don't have a lot of technical experience in what we're looking at, your transferable skills and things that you may have done in different parts of your life can all work towards your application. So I've got a question, Nadine. I'm going to stick with you because I can see you as a little tile on my screen. But Benedict, I'll be asking you as well. So engineering in general, historically, it has been a very male orientated field. And sometimes I still go out when I'm doing careers fairs and there's generally more guys asking about engineering and stuff. So how have you found the experience so far as a woman in engineering and a woman in STEM?
I think the BBC do a good job, at least in London, of like encouraging women into engineering roles. I feel like we've got quite a few women in my home team. They do like the Girls in ICT Day, which I helped out with, where we had some girls from local schools in, and we did some activities with them that were like based in different technology kind of areas. Um, and then our cohort is mostly girls, which is quite funny. So I feel like, yeah, it's if you're a girl and you're like, oh, it might not be for me, it is for you. Apply, put the application in.
Benedict's redressing the balance. Nice to hear. Benedict, what about yourself?
My home team, like the engineers, I am the only girl on the team, but you do get to like tech ops. There are a lot of women working in tech ops, so it's quite a diverse team. And then also with project engineering, you do work with a wide group of people. Like a lot of the project managers you'll work with are women, and a lot of like the production people that you end up working with, you do end up working with a diverse group of people. That being said, in my team, I've never felt like the odd one out. Everyone is very welcoming and everyone will make you feel like you belong. And I feel like the work is being done and we are getting more female engineers. And eventually there will be another project engineering girl in there. But it's never been something while I'm at work that I'm like, oh, I'm the only girl here and I'm like worried about it because everyone is so nice and everyone is so welcoming. So it's definitely not a problem at all.
Oh, excellent. I'm very glad to hear that. Well, you're both, all three of you actually, are on this degree apprenticeship. Aidan, you're 1 year further down the line than Benedict and Nadine. And like Jane said, it's an integrated degree. So you're studying for your degree and you're working at the same time. Aidan, as someone who's getting towards your final project, how are you finding the study work life balance?
I think I find it pretty all right still, just about. I think what really helps is the fact that there's tons of support from people in my team, just about making sure that I know that if I need time to be able to do additional work on the uni side, I can take that when I'm at work, or like vice versa. And I think what really helps is the fact that also the university and Jane and the rest of the apprenticeship team have been really upfront about the kind of things that we need to be considering during our placements that link back. So, for example, we have to work on a portfolio of evidence for the end of the apprenticeship to kind of show off on the uni section. And we need to do things like taking photos and like talking to people so we can get feedback on work that we've done and people to like sign off on that. And because we know that in advance, we've been able to talk to people and make sure it's all like set in stone and all ready to go when we get to that stage. So I feel like managing to balance that has been like pretty easy. Just making sure I talk to people means that everyone's really willing to help, especially because we've been doing the scheme for so long at this point that everyone's kind of aware of what's going on, especially in my team anyway. We've gone through like 6 or 7 generations of engineers through the scheme. People kind of understand the requirements, what we need to do.
Mm. Oh, excellent. And then, so Benedict, you and Nadine are both on your study block at the moment. So what does that look like? And people who are on the call may be thinking, actually, should I go to uni? Should I do an apprenticeship? I want some experience of uni life. And I guess you guys have the best of both worlds because you do these blocks. So what is it that you're doing and studying and experiencing at the moment? I think I said Benedict first.
Yeah. Um, I would say that it's a good mix of like the apprenticeship life and the uni life because we are here every other week during our uni blocks pretty much. And whilst we're here on campus, it is pretty full on, but you do get times to chill out. You do get time on campus. BCU is a city campus, so if that's something you're like, I don't know if I want to miss out on that life, you won't because we're in the city centre. There's students everywhere. You'll get to experience those things. And everyone on the cohort is so nice. So you'll get a good mix of both, I think.
Cool, excellent, thank you. And I do want to point out, like, I know Jane listed all the different locations, and you might be thinking, oh, do I have to travel to Birmingham? But whenever you have to do any travel that's related to your apprenticeship, that's not like, you know, going from your house to your regular day job, your travel and your accommodation is covered. So don't think that's like an additional cost that's coming to you in your apprenticeship. It isn't. Nadine, what are the things that you're learning about in this block?
We have just finished a Cisco module, so lots of like network stuff. We are doing a programming module, which I'm really enjoying, and then principles of communications engineering, which is like very much like signals and the kind of path they take from the transmitter to the receiver and the different things that they're affected by.
Okay, cool. And how do you feel like you're 2 years, a year in? You started last year, yes. How do you feel like, obviously you don't come into all of this knowing all this stuff. So how has the learning journey been in terms of what you're learning? Because I mean, like all those things you just explained to me, I have absolutely no idea about whatsoever. Granted, I'm not applying for the scheme, but you know, how do they support you with your learning journey on some, you know, pretty technical subjects?
Um, I mean, I think like the course is very much designed so that you can go in like not knowing much and you will learn it. And I think like having the work placements as well kind of reinforces the stuff you're learning because you're learning about it in the lectures and then you're actually seeing it in real life. And I feel like, at least for me, that kind of really helps.
So it
And
kind
then there's like a lot of support with like the BBC and the uni. If you need help, all you have to do is send an email and people will help you. And yeah, I found it really good.
cool. Excellent. Glad to hear. So you definitely, your learning is supported by your work and your work is supported by your learning, more or less. Cool. Well, okay. So, I mean, you're all a few years in, but anyone who starts at the BBC, I can imagine, as an apprentice or as a member of staff, comes in with some expectations of what life might be like. See if you can cast your mind back to if you had any of those expectations. Benedict, I'm going to start with you. Did you have any? Have they been met, or have there been any surprises along the way?
One of the things I was worried about was like because the BBC is such a big organization, things are always happening and things are always going quite fast. I was worried like, oh, I'm not going to know anything. Like, am I going to be left behind and things like that. But it's really not like that at all. Everyone loves the apprentices, so asking questions is normal. It's welcomed. Everyone wants you. Everyone wants to help you, and everyone wants to do well. So me being worried about not knowing anything and like dragging people back like that was completely quelled because everyone wants to take their time with you and everyone is so helpful in that regard. So
Cool, excellent. We do love our apprentices. You guys are very awesome. Aidan, what about yourself?
I guess in my head there's a little bit of the fact that whenever you see the BBC, some people have that the newsreader voice. Like I don't know if you know, like the 6 o'clock news, 10 o'clock news. Like the main thing I used to watch the BBC News, and everyone talks, you know, like proper RP. So there's a little bit in my head of, does everyone talk like that in the organisation? Am I gonna go have to learn to re-speak? But everyone talks normally. That's great. Um, but yeah, everyone's really nice. Like everyone's just a regular person who just wants to come in and make cool stuff. That makes life a lot easier when you're trying to just do your job well.
Cool. No, absolutely. We're all working to that one cause, and I mean, we most definitely don't all speak RP English. Can't even remember what RP English sounds like, but for stands for, but that kind of royal, very
Yeah.
posh. We're not posh at all. Nadine, well, I'm not. Nadine, what about yourself?
Um, I guess like it was really scary because the BBC is huge and it was like I'm just one person and I'm coming in and, as Ben said, like not knowing anything. But yeah, like people at the BBC are so friendly and people love to talk about their jobs. They love when you ask them questions and they get to talk about what they've been doing. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think what else.
That's all right.
I think because I'd never really had like a job in like an office. I was kind of worried about what the office environment would be like and if it would be like really, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like it's a really nice environment. It's quite relaxed and everyone's really friendly.
Okay, fair dues, fair dues. Not daunting? Scary? I don't know. I can't think of the word that you're thinking of.
Like, I guess
Intimidating, maybe.
uptight kind of.
Corporate?
And the BBC isn't, yeah, corporate. The BBC is not like that. Like, there is professionalism, but it's not like scary.
Fair dues, fair dues. Don't let the C in British Broadcasting Corporation scare you. We are relatively regular people, just like anyone else. Okay, cool. So do you guys have any advice or top tips for the audience? Nadine, I'm going to go back to you.
Oh gosh. Be yourself and just like if even if you think you don't have experience that matches up, like just kind of think of those transferable skills and really highlight those in your application.
Good tip. Benedict, what about yourself?
Yeah, Nadine really hit the nail on the head. Be yourself. And also don't be afraid to ask questions and be curious because that's what's really going to get you far in, I think, any industry and any career. Being curious about what you're doing and what other people are doing is really going to help you out.
Excellent, very cool. And Aidan, finally with you.
I guess just making sure you know how to sell yourself. Like I feel like something we don't really think about is all the skills that we use every day. Like when you go to meet your friends, you've organized people, you've had time management to get there on time. You know, there's lots of skills that you use without thinking about it, and being able to spin those in a way that allows you to sell yourself, especially for not just this job application, but any kind of job application, is a really important skill to be able to use.
Cool. See, key advice from all three of them. Thank you so very much, guys. I really appreciate your insights, your tips, and your advice. So now I'm going to hand over to Rory, the voice from above, who can talk you through the application process. Rory, over to you.
Cheers, thanks, Alison. I was hoping my camera would have started miraculously working by now, but alas, you've just got a voice still. Thank you, everyone. I'll just quickly take you through the application process, leading quite nicely on from the great tips you've just had from Benedict, Aidan, and Nadine. But in terms of what you should expect, the first part is an online application, which I'll sort of talk through each stage in a bit more detail in a moment. But at that first stage, it's really just us checking eligibility and things like that. Then we have online tests. Once you pass that stage, you'll move through to the video interview stage. And then we have a final stage, which is the assessment center, which is sort of the last stage before we'll be making an offer. But to take you through in a bit more detail what each of those stages look like. So that initial online application, as I mentioned, we're checking your eligibility, but also as, don't remember who mentioned now, maybe Nadine mentioned, we're also checking your motivation. So this is your chance to really sort of demonstrate your motivations and your passion for the scheme. Really reiterating what's been said here, but do take your time researching the scheme and role that best suits you before applying, and read through the application criteria, just so you're sure what those eligibility criteria are. I know we've had a few questions on that today, and of course, demonstrate your passion for the scheme, but also for the BBC. So thinking about, in this case, why you'd like to be a broadcast engineering apprentice, but also why you'd like to do that and kick off that journey with us at the BBC as well. Once you've submitted that application, if you are eligible, then you will move through to the online test, which is done via a platform called Capfinity. This assessment is strengths-based and has been designed bespoke for the BBC, and is related to our values. So just another plug there to be sort of researching and looking up the values, as it will support you at this stage of the process as well. Just in terms of some key facts, so this assessment is done online and will take sort of 45 minutes to an hour. As we mentioned, it will explore your strengths and abilities, so do answer authentically. I think it's been mentioned already that being yourself is really, really important, and this is also an opportunity to demonstrate that. Do not consult outside sources while completing the assessment. Again, it's important that it's a true reflection of you, your strengths and your motivations. And some of our technology schemes will include more of an aptitude test, such as sort of your ability to code and things like that. However, that would not be included for broadcast engineering. Once passing that online assessment stage, the next part is the video interview, which is conducted on a platform called HireView. This isn't a live video interview, so you won't be talking to anyone else on the other side of a video call. At this stage, you'll be presented with a number of questions which give you the opportunity to, again, demonstrate your strengths, motivations, and passions, and you will submit recorded answers to those questions. In terms of sort of the top tips that I mentioned there, time management is really important. We will always let you know how long you have to do an assessment, sort of what that deadline is. Important to test your technology and make sure you're familiar with HireView. Stay authentic, that's really important here as well. At this stage, you do have the opportunity to re-record an answer if you're not quite happy with it. However, what I would say is I would stray away from sort of recording each answer 20, 30, 40 times. And we do want to see your authentic and true self as part of that. And again, ahead of this stage, make sure you're researching the scheme and the BBC values, as that will support you in terms of answering these questions. And then the final stage of the process is an assessment centre, which is held virtually for this scheme and typically includes a pre-assessment task. So this is a task that we set ahead of the assessment day, and you will have an opportunity to talk through this as part of those interviews. And for broadcast engineering, we typically have a mixture of a more technical interview. So that is your opportunity to talk through that pre-assessment task and the more technical elements of the role, as well as us exploring some of your motivations and knowledge for the scheme at interview stage as well. So thinking about sort of, again, why you want to do this apprenticeship, why at the BBC, and this is your chance to really demonstrate your passions and stand out from the crowd and speaking to members from the hiring team. And then finally then is the outcome. As mentioned, this scheme will start in September, but you will get your outcome shortly following the assessment centre. Our schemes team will be in touch with you between the offer and the start date to make sure you're aware of all of the steps you need to complete in terms of contracts and set up on the system and all of those things. Importantly, do ask for feedback. And I think that's very important regardless of the outcome. Of course, if you're unsuccessful, that feedback can help you with future applications to the BBC or other organisations. But even if you are successful, that feedback can let you know what you did well, but also areas that you could improve in for future or areas that may support you once you're enrolled as an apprentice. I would say in terms of that as well, it's mentioned there, sort of rejection is redirection. Please don't be disappointed. Of course, some of our schemes are very popular and competitive, and we do have a number of apprentices that are with us doing great work that didn't get through on their first time applying. So please don't be disheartened and do keep a positive mindset.
Thank you so very much there, Rory. All very important advice, especially the keeping a positive mindset and being yourself. And on that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the BBC's diversity and inclusion work. It starts from before application, if need be. We are very proud to be a disability confident employer. And that means that we can support you if you are disabled, neurodivergent, have long-term health conditions that could impact the application stages for you. You can have a confidential conversation with Rory and the recruitment team, and we can see what reasonable adjustments we could put in place for you. That can follow you throughout the entire application process, and then it will also follow you when you're in work. So we will support you to be the best you can be whilst you're working for the BBC. And that comes in a number of ways. So it might be that you have a conversation with Jane or your team leader, on specific working elements, or it might be that you need some assistive technology or some coaching on certain things, but you can ask us for that kind of support. Some people ask at the beginning of the application stage. Some people think it will impact their application, which it absolutely won't. It won't. And then talk to us once they've got in. But just know that there is that support there available, and it doesn't in any way alter your application or affect your application negatively. And the reason is the BBC has to be an organisation that represents the whole of the UK. We have to be diverse. Diversity really does matter for us. It's not a nice to have thing, it's a vital thing. We can't represent the whole of the UK if we are all the same. You know, if we've all come from the same background, or we all have the same opinions, or we all think the same way. We need to be diverse in order to survive and in order to serve our audiences. So please don't sit here and think, oh, this sounds great, but I couldn't work at the BBC because, and then whatever you want to insert as your because. You really are welcome at the BBC. And I just want to show a quick video of an apprentice who was supported with dyslexia and autism.
When I first found out I was coming to do an apprenticeship at the BBC, my family, friends, everyone at my old work were so excited for me. When I was younger, I used to always partake in the Children in Need. We also used to take a pound in, and I think everyone can remember that from when they were younger. To be working here is just crazy. So I did A-levels before doing my apprenticeship. I wanted to go and do something more creative, and I thought I'd just kind of go a bit off-piece and Google and see what else was out there. The jump from high school to sixth form was really tricky for me. I was finding it really hard to keep up. So I went for an assessment, and it actually ended up turning into an assessment for dyslexia. And I ended up coming out of that assessment with a diagnosis, and then left school, went and worked for 2 years, and then at the age of 20 got a diagnosis for autism. That diagnosis was really beneficial. I'd always wondered why quite didn't feel like I fit in. I'm still finding out new things every day about how to cope. The autism definitely has its stereotypes, and so many times when I got the diagnosis, people will question, well, how can you be autistic? And that was really hard at first, because I thought, well, I don't know, I've been given this diagnosis, I'm trying to understand it. So when I first started the apprenticeship scheme, my line manager reached out and asked, did anybody have any additional needs? And I'd never been asked that before. And I thought, okay, at this point, I don't really know whether the answer's yes or no. Then thought, actually, no, I'm going to tell them. I'm going to be open about this for the first time. They then gave me the support and went through access to work. It gave me extra support in terms of I was given a lot of them to help with the difficulties that I was having. So I was given a software called Dragon to help me communicate that, and all of these things that I'd never had before. And so from that day onwards, I was very open, and the BBC are so understanding and make it so easy to have those conversations. I would say to anybody that's apprehensive about applying for apprenticeships, especially if you're like me and had dyslexia or autism or any disability or anything that you think is a barrier and means that you can't do it, just do it anyway. I definitely think if I'd not applied, I don't know what I'd be doing right now, and I'm so happy to be working here. I'm Vicky, I'm a degree apprentice at the BBC, and I have autism and dyslexia.
Cool. And so here are a couple of QR codes to some of the services I was talking about, and I'll put the links in the chat as well. The one on the left is for the recruitment contact form. So that's where you can contact Rory and the rest of the recruitment or TA team and have a confidential discussion about any reasonable adjustments that you may need. The second QR code on the right takes you to our FAQs on our early careers page. There's a whole wealth of information in our FAQs. There's also even some information on the BBC values, which Rory mentioned in the application process. So it's a good thing to check out. And then finally, the scheme is currently open. This scheme is going to close for applications at 23:59 next week, Thursday. So we've got just over a week until the scheme closes. Other things that you can do is you can also follow us on Instagram at BBC Getting, where you'll see a whole heap of apprentice videos, so kind of like behind the scenes life of apprentice type videos, and also life at the BBC on TikTok, which gives a portrayal of all areas of the BBC, not just apprenticeships, but there are videos from apprentices in there as well. So I'm going to stop the share. And I know that Rory and Jane have been typing away in the background, answering questions. But Rory, were there any themes from some of the questions that you answered that you just want to bring up so that everyone can hear?
Yeah, I think only two main themes I saw coming through in the questions today. The first of which was around the learning element of the apprenticeship, and sort of queries around that. And I guess just to reiterate, that it is block-based learning. I think sort of Jane answered a few questions on this, but it's sort of 3 months on the job with your engineering team, 3 months at Birmingham City Uni, on rotation for the duration of the scheme. And just to call out as well, I think you did mention, Alison, but just for clarity, that we wouldn't be expecting apprentices to sort of be paying for their travel and accommodation to get to the university for any of the learning elements. So any costs associated with that are covered by the BBC. And then there were a few questions just around eligibility and sort of the A-level maths requirement, and sort of whether there was any way around that. And I know sort of Jane did cover, but all candidates on the scheme must meet that A-level maths requirement or equivalent, or sort of a qualification like sort of extended BTEC in engineering that includes engineering maths, but that is a requirement for the scheme and set out by the learning provider. So just to call that out. But if you're unsure of your specific circumstances or qualification, you can use that recruitment contact form to get in touch with me and my team. Please give us as much information as you can about the qualifications you've done, and we can check that for you. But yeah, learning and eligibility were the main themes I saw coming through.
The top themes. Cool. Thank you so very much for that. I've just seen one question pop up, which I can see Jane typing an answer to, but I'm actually going to call it out. So someone has asked, is there someone who oversees the entirety of our apprenticeship? And the answer would be yes, that would be your schemes specialist. She's there waving. So Jane, do you just want to give a real quick overview of kind of like the role of the scheme specialist and what kind of support you provide?
Yeah, so you will have support from loads of people throughout the whole scheme. You'll have a schemes team, so a schemes specialist and a schemes advisor who you can contact about any part of your apprenticeship, and we'll oversee the kind of the main link between you and your learning provider, so Birmingham City Uni, and anything that goes alongside that, and also make sure your placement rotations are happening, make sure that your line managers are communicating with you, around your knowledge, skills and behaviours that you need, all of that stuff. So supporting you, and then supporting you alongside any issues, any problems, making sure your travel's booked, your expenses are covered, all of that stuff is dealt with by us as a schemes team. And then on top of that, you've got your line manager in the workplace who will be supporting you along throughout your placements really, and your learning. You might have placement managers if you're working with other teams. And you'll have the rest of your cohort. You're all in it together. So you've got those as well to lean on and support. And then on top of that, you've got the learning provider. So you've got Birmingham City University and all their support that they offer you. You've got your course leads, your lecturers, there's all sorts of support. So you're definitely not on your own, is what I would say. There's plenty of support to lean on.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I think we've gone through all of the questions. I've put some links in the chat to some of the QR forms that were in the presentation, just in case QR codes don't work for you. But I think I'm going to end it on Jane's note that you most definitely aren't on your own. You are supported through every step of your apprenticeship, and I can see the apprentices nodding, so it has to be true. Thank you so very much for taking part and listening to us talk and explain the webinar, explain the apprenticeship this evening. Best of luck for all of you who apply. Please do check out all the other options as well in terms of apprenticeships, and like said, not wanting to scare anyone, but applications are going to close next week, Thursday. So not this Thursday. They're closing on the 13th at 23:59. So gets to starting, people. And good luck. All right. Thank you so very much. Have a great evening. Thank you very much to Benedict, Nadine, Aidan, Jane, and Rory for taking time out this evening. And everyone have a good night. Bye.